Good morning, everyone. This is ELIO Piedra, and you are watching Morning Coffee with ELIO. I am fired up. Yes, today, this is the day that you've been waiting for, because if you are seeking growth, fulfillment, if you are thinking to reach the next level, all right, to live your dreams and to achieve your goals, I have an amazing guest today that you don't want to miss. Because if you are seeking, stay motivated, stay inspired, you are at the right place at the right time. Let me tell you something. So my guest today, it is Purdeep Sangha, and he is widely known as the strategist for men in business and teaches men how to become a profit-multiplying powerhouse. His personal mission is to help men grow their businesses massively, increase their personal fulfillment in life, and improve their relationships, very important, with their wife and kids. He's the founder behind the movement Men Who Win, men who are mindful alpha males. Are you guys ready? Stay right there, because Purdeep Sangha is going to join us after this. Get up, baby, this morning. This is ELIO Piedra. Another morning means another coffee, because this is Morning Coffee with ELIO. This is going to be a great day. We have a fantastic guest. And the wait, it is over. Welcome to Morning Coffee with ELIO. Purdeep, how you doing?
Hey, Elio, that was awesome. I'm doing great, man. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you. I mean, what else can I do? I am fired up. I'm telling you, I'm excited and I am motivated just by having you there. You are the man. So,
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
yes, yes. You have a system. You have I will say like a powerhouse of ideas and strategies and tools to help individuals to achieve their goals, their dreams, and to be the best version of themselves. You actually have on your website an amazing title that I saw it and I loved it. It said, "Become a complete man and experience victory." What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, well, where do I start? It's just, if I was to sum it up, it's really for guys. A lot of guys have victory in one particular area of their life, whether it's their business or maybe it's their health, but they don't feel like they have complete victory. So they feel like something's missing in their life. And this really stemmed from, you can say, my dad, because my dad was a successful man. He came from India with next to nothing. He raised a happy and successful family. And his goal was to hit 65 years old, and then he was going to tell himself that he did it, right? That was a moment that he was going to tell himself that he was complete. But he passed away at 64 and a half from a sudden heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And that was a real hit for our family. And it was tough for us. It was tough for my brother. It was obviously tough for my mom, just a whole series of events. But that also played into the work that I do, because I see so many men just going through life feeling like they're missing something. So that is ultimately my mission, is to help them feel complete and really get complete victory overall, because every guy wants to have the money. They want to have the success. They want to have that great relationship. They want to have that great family. They want to be a great father. They want to raise happy and healthy children. So that's really what I do. That's the work that I do, is help them complete their lives and become that complete man that they've always wanted to be.
That is awesome. You mentioned that every guy, they want to be successful, they want to have the money, but there is a price to pay. to achieve that dream. So, and that price is what it is actually inspiring me to think about all the ideas that I want to share with our morning coffee community. What is the price that you need to be willing to pay? What are the strategies that I will say, to be able to succeed in times of like COVID-19, for example?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think that the price depends on each person because everybody has their own individual goals. So when we take a look at what complete victory means to you, it might be different than someone else, or different for me. So everybody has their own meaning of what complete victory is. I think that's the most important thing to figure out is what does it mean for you, and have your own definition and have it outlined so you know what you want. Because I find that a lot of guys don't know what they want. They have an idea, but they're not very precise about it. And there's a lot of external factors that influence them. So for example, they've been told that they have to have this massive house or these fancy cars or whatever that looks like. Well, for some people, you don't need that to feel like you have complete victory. So the first step is really knowing what you want and having clarity. And that means that you have to remove all of the other noise that's out there, whether that's on social media or whatever that looks like, or comparing yourself to someone else. What is it that you really want? And then work backwards. So that ultimate price that you're talking about is different for every person. Here's what I find is that there has to be some kind of balance, because there's points in times of your life that you do have to spend more time working and less time with your family, that you have to be out on the road. You have to be giving it everything that you got. But then there's times where your family needs you, and you got to pull back on whether it's work or business or whatever that is and spend more time with your family. So especially at this particular time with COVID, the biggest price is getting out of your current habits, your current way of thinking, and your current plan and your current strategy. Because I find that a lot of people have a goal and they said, well, this is my goal. This is how I was going to achieve it. Now, COVID has completely thrown them off track.
Yes.
They've been thrown off, and a lot of them, they feel like their goal is unachievable now because they have a business, for let's just say, for example, that was dependent on in-person, you can say, interactions. Now they're not able to do that. So they have to come up with a completely different business model. So the price there in times of COVID, for example, is to be as versatile as you can, is to be as innovative as you can, and be able to roll with the punches, as they put it, because this is a different time that we're experiencing, and people just have to be creative. That's ultimately what it comes down to, is you got to be creative. Keep your eye on the goal, and don't I would say get discouraged, because a lot of people have thrown their dreams away now. Yes. And said that they can't accomplish it. You can. You just have to find a different path.
I love that. I love that. And I love when you also said that sometimes you need to make sacrifices to be able to achieve your goals. And for example, Eric, there is a quote, or it was like a conversation, most like a conversation, that he said, you need to be willing to give it all to win it all. To give your time. You're willing to give your time, your energy, your investments, everything with a vision, okay? But I gotta tell you, Purdeep, we are in times where people are hopeless. Mm-hmm. People they had that big dream, and now they feel like that dream doesn't really matter anymore. So I would like for you to share some thoughts about strategies to develop so we can actually go back to our vision. Okay, so you as a coach, I understand that you are a tremendous coach in the business industries, entrepreneurship. You are a mentor of successful people. So what would you say to those people, those entrepreneurs, especially, that they had this big dream, right? And now, just out of the sudden, this dream disappears. So what would you say to them? How can they create or reinvent themselves, recreate, new strategies in times of COVID-19?
Yeah, great question. So the first one is, because this is such a massive event, this is a world event, everybody has been impacted, and virtually everybody. So what has happened is that we've had this massive, you can say, it's not necessarily negativity, but it is negativity. But everybody has brought their positivity down, and their hopes and dreams have come down overall as a whole. So the first piece is to associate yourself with people that are still optimistic. That is the first one, because optimism is contagious. It's a form of energy, and it's important to tap into that energy. It's very easy to get down and out right now and get connected with people that are burying themselves in sorrow, or feeling, you can say, sorry for themselves, or feeling like the victim. You got to get rid of that. You got to associate yourself with the people that are optimistic, because with every challenge there's opportunity. Right. And so that is the big thing to find, is what is the opportunity out there? Because when everybody else is panicking, there's always opportunity. If you take a look at it from a business standpoint, if you look at all your competitors in your industry, and if everybody is either closing locations or they're pulling back on expenses, this is what's happening in general for a lot of people. This is your opportunity to actually invest in your future, because coming out of this, it's just like the stock market, it's just like the real estate market, the economy as a whole. Yes, we're going to hit it. We're on the downturn, and I don't know if we've hit a rock bottom yet or not, but it's always going to come up. And it's who comes out faster on the way up that's ultimately going to win. And that's where you want to set yourself up, is be able to get through the tough time, which is right now, but then come out of the gate running. And the better you can come out of the gate, the more effective you can be. So as I mentioned, optimism is the most thing, and look for opportunities. If we're looking at it from a business standpoint, here's the number one piece of advice that I can give you, is that a lot of people are stuck with their existing business model. They're stuck with their existing product or service. And because they can't deliver that same product or service in the same way that they've done over the last decade or so, they feel like their business is going to shut down. Here's what you have to remember. Business is simply this. It's the ability to create a customer and keep that customer. That's all it is. So if you want to be extremely successful in this period of time, that's the goal that you should have, is identify how you can create a customer and how you can keep that customer, whether it's your existing customers or maybe it's brand new customers altogether. But that is the goal of business, is for you to go out there and create a customer. If you take a look at it from that perspective, it doesn't lock you down to your existing business or the existing way that you're making money right now. You're constantly looking for opportunities. That's where you have to be, ELIO. For me, it's a little bit easier said than done, because I come from an innovation background. That's part of my academic experience. That's part of my consulting experience. So I'm always looking for opportunity, and that's a lot of the work that I do. But that is the one differentiating piece, is you should write down on your board, how do I create a customer? How do I keep a customer? Because here's another piece, is we think that a lot of business people or businesses are really smart. Right? I think we overestimate the intelligence of our competitors. I think we really do. A lot of people have been able to run successful businesses because we've had a great economy. And it's easy to do that. Now that we have a tough economy, that's where you separate the real people that have, you can say, grit and intelligence and business savviness, compared to people that are just able to run an ordinary business. So don't count yourself out. There's a lot of people out there that just don't have the skills. And if you develop those skills going forward, you can outpace your competition. The number one skill that you need to have in this particular time is beef up on your marketing skills and beef up on your creativity. Those are the two skills that are going to get you through this tough time right now in COVID.
That is huge. That is awesome. That is fantastic. I wanted to ask you, you only coach males, or you also work with females?
Well, I do have some female clients, but I work specifically with males because that is my niche, because I do a combination approach. I really work with them on the business strategies, but we all know that there is no line between business and personal, right? We pretend that there is, but there isn't. If you're having a crappy day at home in your relationship or as a father, you're going to take it to work. It's going to impact you at an emotional level, at a psychological level. So the work that I do is very specific with men because I've been working with men for a very long time. So I understand the nuances. Plus, I'm a guy. I'm married. I've gone through difficult relationship challenges. I know what it's like to be a father, have businesses. So it's really, my focus is on men because I have that expertise, you can say, on the complete circle of business and life. That's why we talk about the complete man. I focus specifically on men. I do coach women, but it would be unfair for me to say I'm as effective because I'm not a woman. I haven't lived in a woman's shoes. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. So there's a difference there for me.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest. I saw the become a complete man. I was wondering, well, why not become a complete woman?
Yeah.
Because probably we have a lot of women that are female entrepreneurs. They are amazing and they follow our show, so they may wonder that. So I wanted to ask you that.
Well, here's the point there. You know what? I focus specifically on men because there's not that many resources for men. There are a lot of resources for women. There's a lot of female entrepreneur groups, a lot of female coaches that work specifically with females. There is very few resources specifically for men who are qualified. And that's kind of where I kind of focus in there.
Yeah, you're right. I seen a lot of stuff for women, but let's talk habits, okay? Because
Yep.
I understand that habits dictate. Well, actually, vision dictates your habits. Am I right? So when you have let's say I have the vision that I wanna just have a peace of mind that I don't wanna get a DUI. So, for example, I wanna just be cool. I wanna do the things right. So if your vision is not to get in trouble, what are you drinking at a bar until 12 a.m. and you're drinking more than you should and you are driving? Is that right? So your vision, because you know that you have your kid at home and you want to be an example as a father, you don't want to do that because a DUI can affect your family. That's your vision. So dictate your habit. So let's say you can get a beer, but you don't get 3 beers because it can affect you, right? So
Yep.
I would love to go deeper on that, expand on habits, all right? Not
Sure.
only for success, well, I will say for success, but in the personal life as in business. What can you tell me about this?
Sure. Habits are formed. So I can get into the science of habits as well. So habits are important because most of the time, half of our day is roughly built around habits. Scientists have shown about 47%. So we're walking around doing all of this stuff throughout the day, and most of it is just habit. We don't even know it's at an unconscious level. Here's what impacts your habits. Your vision, as you talked about. So goals are important because your mind is a goal-oriented organ. If you give it a goal, it really strives to achieve that goal. The second piece is identity. So not only do you need to have a goal, but you need to have an identity. And identity is basically a representation of the type of person you are. So if you feel like you are a leader, if you're a passionate leader, that's your identity. Your brain will remain consistent with that and create habits that are consistent with that. So identity is one of the most important pieces of a human you can say human performance, optimal performance, is because if you have that identity, then you'll build better habits. Let me give you an example. Every time I go work out, I have a goal, I have a system, and the system is simply working out. The goal is to sweat my butt off and actually get through this workout and actually give it 110%. But the one piece that I really have to focus on in between there is my identity. I have to continuously tell myself that I'm gonna rock this, right? I'm a warrior. I'm gonna get through this workout. And that's the key thing that keeps me driven. So here's what ends up happening for most people is your habits support your identity, right? If you tell yourself that you're a sober person, but you keep having drinks, you're going against that identity. So if you're working with your identity, it's a lot easier to perpetuate your identity, and your identity then perpetuates your habits. If you tell yourself a sober person, you're more likely to not drink, right? You'll create those habits. And when you don't drink, you are then supporting your identity that you're a sober person. So it's a cycle, and it's important to keep that cycle going, and that requires obviously some discipline. It requires a system, because habits aren't just simply created. We actually have to put a system in place. We have to make it easy for us to do these habits, right? So, do you
I'm
get
sorry,
what
go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, the easier you make it for yourself to create habits, the easier you'll actually do the habits.
Yeah, I am very happy that you mentioned that, and taking expanding on the example of the drinking part. For example, why do you think sometimes people they are so hard on themselves? For example, they say, "Well, I am gonna stop drinking, but I'm gonna have a sip today, and probably tomorrow I am gonna stop drinking, for good." you know and I like, really, it shouldn't be like I am gonna stop drinking and I'm gonna have the discipline to do it. So why do you think it is so hard, for people to keep up with discipline?
So if we take a look at habits or addictions or anything like that, a lot of the times we do it because we want to feel a certain way. We operate on feelings, not necessarily logic. And a lot of the feelings that we have are based on previous or prior experiences. So people will drink because they want to feel a certain way that they felt in the past, whether that's getting rid of their sorrows or they feel more free to be themselves. Maybe they're a little bit more outgoing. That's what they're looking for. That's why people do what they do, is they're looking for that feeling. The challenge is that the way that we live our life today, a lot of it is based on our past feelings, not necessarily our present feelings. So could someone do something else other than pick up a drink to feel that same way? Yes. But they're so used to doing it, and they know by doing it, it's a lot easier to get into that state or into that feeling. So some people just don't know any better. Some people haven't tried it. But here's the thing with habits. Habits, from a neurological perspective, are hardwired connections in your brain. Your cells are literally connecting with each other when you build a habit, and they stay connected. So it's very difficult to break that connection. So if you tell someone who is, because I know this because my dad suffered from alcoholism. And I studied his behavior for 25 plus years, probably close to 30 years. That's why I work specifically with men, because I wanted to understand what makes men do the things that they do. He was a great guy when he was sober, but when he drank a little bit too much, he was a completely different person. So I started to analyze his behavior. So for him, he didn't know any other way to put himself in that state of feeling stress-free, or feeling a sense of freedom, for example, or being able to break out of his shell. It's when you tell someone to break that habit, it's difficult. What they need to do is they need to build another habit that overrides that existing habit. So instead of drinking, maybe they should go work out or go for a walk. And so you can't just break a habit. You have to build a new habit on top of it that overrides it. And so that's where you can sometimes see people that have stopped smoking or stopped drinking. They go extreme into working out, right? They'll go into another extreme, which is a little bit better for them. So that's where you have to focus, is just finding something else that can be put as a substitute for what's making you feel that way.
And this is leading me to decision making. All right, sometimes people, they need to make the decision to just start. You need to make the decision of being willing to become the best version of yourself, but they don't make a decision which is already a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what can you tell me about decision making and planning your goals, having a strategy so you can achieve them?
Yeah, great question. So I'm glad you brought up decision making, because it's a key part to how we live our life. It's one of the key parts of my formula that I show people in terms of how to what I call the performance framework. And decision making is one of the key elements. The first thing that someone needs to understand is obviously have a goal, but that goal needs to be very emotionally charged, right? A lot of times we write down goals and they don't get us going. There's no emotion to it. If there's no emotion to a goal, you're not going to stick with it. And studies have shown, the Stanford study showed that the more emotions and feelings you put into a decision and your goals, the more likely you are to be more committed, passionate, and persistent to achieve them. So feelings are the most important thing. I'm going to keep stressing that, because we make decisions majority of the times. Again, studies have shown anywhere from 80 to 95% of our decisions are based on feelings. They're based on our current feelings and feelings that we have about the topic or the subject that we're making the decision on from the past. So feelings are important. We just use logic to justify the feelings. That is a key thing. If you realize that the majority of the stuff that you do is based on a feeling that you have felt in the past or a feeling that you're trying to achieve, then you're going to look at things a little bit more carefully and analyze your own feelings as you're making the decision. And then be aware of those feelings. And so when I work with people, here's one of the first things that I ask them. And it's very interesting, and it's amusing, because when you take a look at high performing men, for example, that want to just say they have a very successful business and they want to double their revenue or whatever that looks like for their business, I always ask them, how do you want to feel when you achieve this goal? And they always look at me like, what does feelings have to do with anything? And here's my rationale is, if I'm going to work with you for 12 months or however long it takes you to get to that goal, and you still don't feel those emotions that you want to feel, then it's all gone to waste. Because you do things based on a feeling. You don't do things based on a thought. For example, you don't think love, you feel love. You don't think hunger, you feel hunger, right? That's what makes you get up and go to the kitchen and get food. So majority of the stuff that we do is based on a feeling. It's to satisfy a specific feeling. That is ultimately the secret, you could say the secret sauce to performance is awesome. if you really listen to your emotions, your feelings, analyze them, and actually strive towards the emotions that you want to feel, you're more likely to achieve it.
Wow. And how can someone develop a feeling or learn how to know? I mean, it is kind of like a tricky question or a tricky thought that I have right now. But you know how sometimes people, they don't feel anything. They just don't feel, and they don't have, and I'm not only talking about motivation. I'm just talking about the will. When you have the will to do something, those 5 words can change your day. But sometimes they don't have that will is not linked to the feeling. So it is kind of tricky to understand that aspect, and at the same time have awareness of what is your situation. Is that right? So yes. For example, when you are coaching someone, when can you tell that they have achieved that goal that you have for them?
So how can I tell is basically a majority of the ability to tell whether a person feels good or not is their body language. That is the easy tell. You can tell from their facial expressions, you can tell by their gestures, you can tell how they're operating, how they're talking. So when you talk about feelings and people not feeling, everybody feels. And people are just different in terms of how they've been trained and conditioned to express their feelings. Some cultures, for example, have been trained, like some Asian cultures have been trained to, you can say, suppress their feelings. So they'll feel something, but then they are told that you gotta suppress that feeling. That's how they grow up, right? But every person does. Like in the Latin culture, right? You're a little bit more outgoing, right? A little bit more expressive when it comes to certain things. So there's a cultural aspect as well. There's a personality aspect for feelings, because some families are a little bit more closed than other families. And so you get raised that way. So it's really, every person has a different level of emotions. Like I could get into the details, but I don't know if we want to get into specifics. But there's 5 levels of emotions or feelings, right? And so if you want, I can just quickly go through them. Please. And it'll give a little bit more clarity. So the first level, and these are studies that have been done over a number of years, is the first level is what we call emotions. This is what most people talk about. And that is, let's just say you walked into your doors and someone set up a surprise birthday party for you. you're going to feel this sense of surprise, and you're going to feel elated. You're going to feel joy. That is an emotion. An emotion is a very short-lived type of feeling. And you know that. So there's sadness, there's fear, there's happiness. That's the first level. And you know, because your body automatically reacts to that. The second level is personality. Like I talked about, based on how we are raised differently. Each family has a different expression of how they express their feelings. And because of our conditioning, we will actually suppress it, or we will actually promote it, whatever that looks like. The third level is culturally, as I mentioned. Some Eastern cultures suppress it. Some Western cultures don't. Latin, again, outgoing, right? If you talk to someone from Jamaica, they're always laughing, or, they're always out there laughing and joking. And then the next level is what we call moods as well. And moods can last for hours, or they can last for days. Let's just say someone in your family passed away, and nothing in your life is really bad, but that mood that you're in based on that event of feeling that person's passing can last with you for a few days. And then you also have another level, which is really interesting, is what they call the enteric system, is your gut. So the food that you take in your intestines actually impact your moods and your feelings. So that's why I highly encourage everybody to have a healthy diet and eat proper foods, because that does impact your feelings. If you don't eat properly, you're less likely to feel better emotions and better feelings, because you're feeling like your body's telling you that something is off, and that's based on your diet. The studies have shown that now, that your gut actually has a big part to play in your feelings and emotions. So these are just 5 levels, ELIO, that people just need to be aware of. And the more aware you are, the more likely you are to actually be able to affect them and change them. So the simple thing is just being aware of those levels of feelings.
That is awesome. That is just fantastic. I would like to expand a little more on the diet aspect. It is very interesting to me that how you mentioned what you eat is what is probably you're going to project, related to your emotions and feelings. So what is the ideal diet like you will recommend, for example, entrepreneurs or men that they are seeking to achieve that level of performance?
Okay, so first of all, I want to put the caveat out there that I'm not a dietitian, or I'm not an expert in this area. But here's what I do know, is that diet is based on 2 things. It's your environment, the food that you eat, but also your genetics. So I highly encourage, because I've been, you can say, kind of a health freak since I was 15. I've always eaten healthy. I was a personal trainer at 17. I have my own personal trainer myself, because I'm not able to keep up with diet. So keep up with the latest research. That's the most important thing. And also understand your genetics. There's genetic tests that you can take that will tell you whether certain things will impact your system a certain way. Let me give you an example. I am very sensitive to alcohol. And so a certain amount of drinks will affect me more than someone else based on my genetics. I have a lactose intolerant gene, for example. So I know that if I drink milk or anything like that, it's going to impact my system a certain way. And I can tell right away when I do have something with lactose in it. So these things are important to identify, because your simple genetics can show you what you should be staying away from or what you should focus on. The second piece is, I'm not into really extreme diets. I don't think, you necessarily need to be vegan. I eat meat myself, but it's important to know what chemicals go into your food. So a balanced diet is the most important, right? That's what I say. You have a balanced diet between proteins, your carbs, and your healthy fats. So whatever that looks like, whether you eat chicken, whether you eat vegetables, whether you eat nuts, these are the kinds of things that I eat. In particular, I eat a lot of fish. I eat a lot of chicken. I do eat steak every once in a while. I eat a lot of vegetables. I don't have as many fruits, but I do have some fruits. I do have dark chocolate, for example, because that impacts your brain. I do drink a little bit of wine because that's good for your brain as well. So do the research. There's a gentleman named Dr. Mark Hyman that I highly recommend that you follow. And he's a guru when it comes to diet. And take a look at his stuff, because he's got some really cool research on the latest stuff in terms of what that looks like. So my wife actually is a big follower of his. She takes all the information because she's in the medicine. She's into medicine. That's her field of work. So I've kind of given her the responsibility to say, can you just, the family's nutrition is kind of her end, and she takes care of that. So she's always looking up the latest stuff. But here's the most important thing. You don't need to go to extremes.
Yeah.
And you have to find what works for your particular body.
But we all can agree on that. Cuban coffee is good. Happy morning coffee to all of you. This is fantastic. Yeah, I wanted to expand a little more on that because I totally agree that whatever we eat, I mean, I was reading a book it is an awesome book. It's called The Road to Your Best Stuff, right? Whereby actually Mike Williams, which is Les Brown's mentor, I'm telling you, this is an amazing book that I highly recommend. And he was telling me our body is our house, is where we live. So when you are eating, you are thinking, who is coming in to my house, all right? Yes. It's the same thing, right? Who are you bringing? Who is your guest today? For example, we have the honor, we are privileged to have Purdeep Sangha today. Who are we having? It's the same thing. You need high quality, high performance stuff to be able to achieve that and grab that as another tool, as another resource. So actually, I will highly recommend another book that I have here before we go to the next segment of the show. This book is called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And just in the last, in the back of the book, it said, expect the best and get it. Believe in yourself and in everything you do. Develop the power to reach your goals. Break the worry habit, talking about habits, and achieve a relaxed life. Improve your personal and professional relationships. Assume control over your circumstances and be kind to yourself. And the reason I wanted to mention that is because everything that we're talking about this morning, it is related to it. Everything, all the tips, and I think your coaching, your personal coaching will help human beings to achieve that level of performance. So I wanted to share that before we go into our next segment, which is called What Would You Change in the World? So in this segment, I'm going to give you 4 options, and then you get to select whatever you want, one of the options, and then you explain why. My question is, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's make it happen. This is What Would You Change in the World with Purdeep Sangha. You that are watching, I am asking you to leave your comment below, and we're going to meet you down there at the comments, and let's see what would you change in the world if you could. Here we go. And we are here with this segment that is, what would you change? Emotional situation, economic situation, political situation, or mindset.
Oh, what would I change right now? Holy crow! I would change the political situation. That might be a little bit too easy, actually. But I would change the political situation, I would say.
Why?
Because I think what's happening right now, especially in the U.S., so I'm from Canada, so it doesn't directly impact me, but the political situation in the U.S. is causing a lot of turmoil. And so the U.S. has been the country that everybody has aspired to be like, or at least go to or immigrate to for decades, for years. And a lot of that right now is actually not happening anymore, right? The landscape right now, with whether it's a parties, I'm not a very political person. I actually watch people's, you can say, sociological and you can say psychological behaviors. So I feel like it's hurting the general population more than it's actually hurting the politicians. The politicians aren't the one that's they're still getting paid. They're still doing the things. They're still making their deals. It's the general population that's hurting. It's the 300+ million people in the United States that are getting I'm going to say, the butt end of the stick with these two political parties that actually can't come together to make the U.S. move in a united way to actually they're a world leader. The United States is supposed to be a world leader. They're supposed to be a world leader in not only economics, but world issues, that's not happening anymore. They've taken more of a back seat now. And I'd like to see the United States actually step up again. I would like to see the people of the United States. I have family there, I have friends there. Most of my business is actually in the United States. And so I have a vested interest. I just see people that are just, we talked earlier in the other segment of the show in terms of people's feelings. I feel like people are just they've lost hope and they've lost faith. And the parties need to come together and create that faith again. They need to give people hope, because hope and optimism is what gets people through. That's what gets creativity going. That's what gets the economy going. That's what gets the emotional piece going. And people's mindsets will change. I think if the political landscape changes, I think we can impact all the other things.
That is very interesting, and that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I gotta tell you that I am so grateful. I am very blessed. I feel blessed for having you with us this morning. And just because of that, we have we have a couple minutes to go. But I'm gonna let you say goodbye to our audience. I'm gonna ask you if you could share with our morning coffee community and the world that is watching. Find your final thoughts about someone who is seeking to increase, to reach that level of performance in every single aspect. Some final thoughts before we go. And then I just want to say, my audience, that thank you for become part of our morning coffee community. This is the man that is going to take you to the next level. If you want to reach your goals, your dreams, because you got what it takes, but sometimes you need a professional, a coach, someone. This is very important. Let me actually tap into this. Sometimes we think that we can do it ourselves, and that's true in some part, but we need a coach. Remember, like Michael Jordan, he won so many championships, but Phil Jackson was always by his corner. Muhammad Ali, the same thing, because you need a coach. Someone in your corner that believes in you, believe in your dreams, and believe in everything that you can do. Because if you go to Purdeep's website, you'll see it. You can do more than you can ever begin to imagine, and you can achieve that goal. So I highly recommend to go to this website that we're going to share once again, so you can reach that goal, achieve that profit. You can become more. You can become a powerhouse, as he will say. So now I am going to let you guys with some final thoughts with Purdeep, and we're going to see you guys next time.
Yeah, thank you, ELIO, for having me on the show. I honestly, truly, thoroughly enjoyed this. I have to say that this is probably the best show that I've been on in a very long time. So I want to thank you. But I want to leave the audience with a specific quote from the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama says that people take different roads seeking fulfillment and happiness. And just because on your road doesn't mean that they've gotten lost. So that same quote goes for you as well. Is that look for your own road. What makes you happy might not make someone else happy, and what makes someone else happy might not make you happy. Always live life to the fullest on your own personal terms. I think that's the one thing, is if you're true to yourself, if you're true to how you want to live and the emotions you want to feel, you'll always be successful, regardless of whether you have something or not. You're always going to feel like you're complete inside.
Guys, thank you very much for watching Morning Coffee with ELIO. Yes, we're really looking forward to seeing you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Do not forget to like us and follow us on Facebook and become part of the Morning Coffee with ELIO community. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and live full.